Today I'm joined by Isabelle Staub. Isabelle is Senior Vice President of Global Operations at Twilio. If you're interested to understand what one of the leading innovative organizations in the CPaaS world are doing, then with Twilio, you should absolutely listen to this. So fascinating from Isabelle in terms of what Twilio are doing with mini models, individual models for customer from an AI perspective, their approach to RAG and fine tuning, and really the importance of data and customer data platforms, and understanding of where the world of multimodal AI is going. Fascinating insights, the amount of agility, I guess, Twilio are undertaking, and how they've really jumped straight into the world of Gen AI over the last 15 months. Enjoy the listen. Isabelle Staub, welcome to the Syndeo Podcast. Thank you for getting, well, it's maybe not that early, but it's earlier for you than it is for me in sunny California. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
So, Isabelle, you've an interesting background I'd like to explore. I'm a technologist. I actually have a background. My base degree was economics and done some quantitative economics many years ago. But you have a background primarily in economics and finance, and you worked in that for a considerable amount of time. And I'd like to explore that a little bit and how that has led you into your role. So your SVP within Twilio, and part of that role within Twilio is CX, but it's also into AI. So I'm kind of intrigued how you made that leap from the economics to finance into the world of customer service.
Thank you for asking. Actually, I have a lot of people always asking me this question. That's right. I've been for 20 years in finance, in very different type of finance, like in financial market, on trading floor. And I've been also on wealth management and helping on IPOs. So I had this chance over like 20 years in finance to go through a lot of various type of jobs in finance. But I must say, like at the end of these 20 years, I had the chance to work a lot with CEO of tech company and CEO who are pre-IPO, CEO of public company, but all in the tech sector. And this is when I had this chance to work very closely with them on a day-to-day basis that I started to learn about tech. And I really enjoy this area that is extremely dynamic, very fast in terms of mindsets. And I wanted to jump in this new world for me because it was completely new. Like imagine like for 20 years, you're really like deep into economics and finance, and suddenly you're touching a new world that you have absolutely no knowledge. And so I decided kind of after like 20, 22 years to jump into the unknown, to stretch myself, to be out of my comfort zone and be able to learn again as a new dummy. And so I was kind of the dummy for tech and be able to learn for everything. And I really enjoyed. So when I joined Twilio, which is a CPaaS, so it's not only tech, it's tech and communication. So you add even more complexity into the tech world. I had to learn everything from scratch. And like, actually, I joined at the bottom as a junior. I started again a career. And I've been able over the last now 5 years, actually yesterday was my 5 years anniversary. After 5 years, I've been able like to move from sales roles to operational roles and be able to centralize all the operation functions of the company into one centralized department.
So just leading on from that, give me a little bit of what your day-to-day job is within Twilio. Yes, around centralizing those roles. I know CX is an important part, and I know AI, as with any tech company, is an important part too.
So CX is the core of my day-to-day role because I'm customer obsessed, and my goal is to provide the best experience to our customer every single day. And so imagine my role on a day-to-day as if you had a very complex machine with a lot of pipes, and you want to make sure that none of these pipes are breaking. And this is the main core responsibilities I have today. Like we are a communication driving email, SMS, voice. We need to make sure that none of these pipes of communication around the world are not breaking. So a lot part of my role on a day-to-day, like with my leaders, is to make sure that the communication is well delivered. The second part of my role is all about the services and the support. We need to ensure that when customer has a need, we're here for them from an expertise standpoint, from a service standpoint, from a technical standpoint, but as well from a support standpoint for helping them troubleshooting. I also have a very, very exciting part of it is all the AI and automation. So I have the chance, I would say, I'm very fortunate to have my mini R&D function into our organization that help us drive AI and automation. And what I really enjoy about this is we started already a year and a half ago. A lot of people are thinking about AI today. We started AI and automation a year and a half ago. And so we have been able to really focus our time to make sure how do we drive better automation through AI across all the operational organization. Now, when I say operational organization, I'm thinking customer-facing type of operation. Think about onboarding a customer, making the customer compliant, ensuring that the deliverability is working well for them, ensuring there is no bug in the product we are providing to our customers. So in all this function we are delivering every single day, we want to make sure that we have the best automation. Therefore, each of our individuals in the operational organization drive the best service, the best productivity, and ensure have the best knowledge. Because with AI, your knowledge becomes limitless.
Yeah, let's maybe step back a little bit. And you mentioned at the outset there about communicating with your leadership and your teams internally. There's been a lot of talk, I suppose, in more recent years about EX, employee experience. How do you correlate that to then CX? So what's the overlap? What's the importance of having your employees engaged and understanding your products and service, and then how do they deliver that to your customers?
I think it's spot on. I mean, like, honestly, CX is not only our customer outside of our company, it's also our employee. And so what is extremely important, so when I took on some operational teams, I realized that a lot of things were broken in terms of tooling, in terms of monitoring, ensuring that their day-to-day work was efficient, was productive, and was also a pleasure. Because for a lot of them, it was a lot of pain. And so what we worked on, and that's why also initially we created this R&D function, is to understand where are all the gaps, inefficiencies in our employees' day-to-day operations that we need to fix for. And, you know, it's kind of, in general, the thing that you put at the bottom of your list of priorities in R&D. And that's why we created our own R&D to get the right prioritization, to ensure we bring the right automation and AI internally for each of our employees to have a better day, meaning that getting access to data, this is so important, and this is the prime of so many tech companies. How do you get the right access to data? How do you get the right access to the data you use? Because that's the other problem is you can have a lot of access to many data, but you don't know where to find the one you need.
Yeah.
And so bringing the right data that is relevant for each operators, each engineers, each specialist is really important. Understanding how they can use this data, consume it, and serve it to our customers is the key to make them productive, relevant, and provide the right customer experience. So I really feel that if we nail internally how to bring each of our specialists the right data and be able to consume the right way, we can drive the best experience in our customers. And the beauty of that is also another thing. It's a way to understand how accurate we are for future AI virtual agents. So what I really love to do today is we work on a lot of copilots. And copilot is the best way for us to serve any of our operators, very different type of job family. And that's the beauty of it is you can develop copilot for any job function. Even
Yeah.
if you would be like HR, IT, etc., you can have copilot. You need copilot actually. And in operations, like imagine like, so onboarding services, professional services, the customer support, supply operations, you need to have access to this data, but you need to understand how you're going to use it and what is relevant with the customer needs. The copilot is here for that. And so we have worked since now a year plus on building copilot, and we're still in the work because we are live actually for copilots right now internally. It's homemade, and we make sure we drive the right copilot for the right job family. But of course, we haven't finished our conquest about all the job families into the operation world.
And are those co-pilots largely driving efficiencies within the internal staff teams as opposed to, or maybe it's a mixture of both, also
100%.
helping
So
the end customer? So it's internal to
yes, correct. So to be able, so we need to think about copilot, virtual assistants, and other type of tools. What is important is the core, the brain of it that will serve this copilot. And so where we spend a lot of our time to drive this customer experience is how do we connect all the sources of data to build the right LLM? We are built on top of OpenAI. And we are actually thinking how potentially in the future we will be multi-model and be able to switch from one model to another one to be even like more productive or more relevant based on the nature of our queries. And how do you get like a data that is the cleanest possible, that is quality tested all the time, that is curated, and then use this data to provide the highest accuracy in any query in Copilot. So there are two phases in our Copilot. The first Copilot is really about you prompt and you get an answer with the right data, the most accurate possible. Now, next generation, so this is already delivered, we're live on that, and our accuracy is pretty high. But the next step that is even harder is how do you auto-prompt? Meaning that the AI himself is looking at the email, is looking at the query, is looking at the problem, is looking at your screen, and is able to predict what do you need, and is able to provide all the predictive traits with the answer without you having to prompt for it. So suddenly you become assisted. Instead of prompting, you get assistance. And I think that's the next generation of our copilots, is be able to provide the right assistance to any job family in operations. Therefore, you make sure that you get the right answer, even if you're not a good prompter, because prompting is an art, you know?
Yes, it
the
is.
the answer you get is so different if you prompt well or not. We cannot assume that all our organization is good at prompting. It's not possible. So we want to make sure we provide them the right prompting assistance. And based on that, they can even provide the best productivity and the best service to our customer. Has it improved productivity? A lot. It's a double-digit type of % of productivity. Has it helped better service our customer? I think there are two caveats I'm going to put there. You have two different type of services, the way you serve our customers. You have the direct way and you have the indirect way. So the direct way is directly our customer talking to AI bots through our website because they have a problem. And we want to make sure instead of having a search bar, we want to make sure we offer them some good experience with an AI agent, a virtual agent. So today the quality is not too bad, but again, it's based on how you prompt. What's going to make the big difference in the future of our AI bots, and we are releasing in a quarter from there, is the personalization. How do we make sure we understand our customer from a 360 degree? Meaning not only who he is through the CDP and his profile, that's one thing, that's one element, but how he consumes the data. What is it doing with our product? What is his behavior with Twilio's product? How do we make sure we understand and we can predict where he has a problem? Therefore, when he reach out to us, not only we know where is the product, we can predict for it, but we come right away with the solution, right away with the next step, and we can help troubleshoot. Even better than that, Instead of being reactive, we start being proactive. We start reaching out to the customer and tell him, hey, you didn't know yet, but you have a problem. You're under fraud attack. You have an account takeover right now happening, and we're going to help you troubleshoot. Or even better, hey, we solved your problem. Actually, you don't have any problem anymore. You're solved, you're done. But here is what happened for you, just for your knowledge. So that's the next generation that is coming in Q4 and Q1 is how do you get personalization at a level you really understand the behavior and consumption of our customer, therefore you can deliver the best experience and be proactive.
And do you think we are, well, more specifically, do you think you are close to delivering that? There's been a lot of, I've been in this industry for far too long. We talked about personalization 15, 20 years ago when we were delivering natural language automated systems using voice technology. And one of the big buzzwords today is hyper-personalization.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've failed in the industry quickly to deliver. We've talked a lot about, yes, customer data platform, understanding data and being proactive. We have failed, in my opinion, to deliver other than what I would call normal personalization. So picking the Annie off a call, for example, or the email and doing a data dip into a CRM or a CDP and understanding who that customer or what previous history of interaction. That's all normal stuff. But what does hyper-personalization actually mean? And are we capable, or actually more importantly, are Twilio capable of delivering? You mentioned coming, Q1, Q2 next year. Is that for real? Not that I doubt you.
I think it's a very good point. It's very relevant, meaning that are we good at doing hyper-personalization today? No. Will we be tomorrow? Very likely, in my opinion, for two reasons. I think there are several components. They are making sure you're connected to the right data source. And so based on what is your business, on our side, it's not only CRM, it's not only a CDP. Actually, we are connected to, our LLMs are connected to our CRM today and is about to be in CDP. I think the hardest part is how do you interpret the real-time data of customer behavior and customer consumption? And so I would say two things. The first one is the contextual awareness of the data needs to be trained in a level that you can provide the personalization. And if you don't have a right recommendation engine on the back end that is really trained on your specialization, meaning here we're talking about CPaaS. It's not a software. It's not a type of product where a subscription is very binary. It's very, very complex communication channel that are multi-dimensional. And so how do we make sure that not only you have a great LLM, so the two components is, the first one is foundational. So foundational, getting the right data where you're connected to the right sources on a real-time basis. The second part is also getting the right LLM, meaning like OpenAI today is very good. Claude is very good. There are many models that are very good, but how do you get the model that provide the right in voice? It's a very important one, the right conversational AI. How do you make sure like you have the right personalization through conversational? And I think that we're not that bad today, like with OpenAI and other model. Will we be better? Yes, exponentially. Like every 2-3 months, we get like a level of upgrade that is incredible. Look at the last level of release coming from OpenAI. It's just like blowing. Now, it's not enough for personalization. You have another layer that you need is the fine-tuning and making sure your fine-tuning is the most accurate to your business and is really trained on the behavior of each of our customers. The last layer that is for me also the most important in personalization is the recommendation engine. And the recommendation engine needs to be as accurate as possible from an infinite possible level of probability of scenarios. Because one use case is one thing, but in one use case, you can have so many different behavior, so many different type of consumption that your recommendation engine needs to be super smart to understand that all these signals correlated together equal one answer, meaning like one recommendation engine giving upsell, cross-sell, next step, whatever it is. And that's the hardest part for me, to drive hyper-personalization. I don't think the data connectivity is a problem. I don't think the LLM layer is a problem. I don't think the fine-tuning is a problem, but I think the recommendation engine is what is going to drive the level of sophistication to your customer.
I assume, and I'll not get overly technical here, you're using a mixture of fine-tuning of the foundational model with retrieval augmented generation coming from CRM data, or what, again, without getting into too much, but there's maybe two schools of thought that RAG, retrieval augmented generation, is the way to go. Or fine-tuning is the way to go, or is the combination?
That's a very good question. So we are testing every day different types. So today we are based on the RAG model, but we are also trying to build, that's very experimental. I'm not saying it's going to work. It's sidebar work, parallel work. We are trying to create a SLM for each customer.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you create like a small language model that is adapted per customer? One customer, one model.
So you need a hell of a lot of data. You need a hell of a lot of data.
Not really. You would be surprised. That's the beauty of it, because you are providing a very short language model that is stringed to a level like today. You have seen all this mini model, and do you see how they perform? It's quite very, very good, I would say, because do you need a perfect model? Not really. Do you need a good model? Yeah. Can a mini version provide a good outcome? I think so. So if you're capable to have a mini model where you build a small language model and be customize that per customer. So for each customer, the query will be very specific and will not consume all the data, very specific data, just attached and restricted to the customer needs of his own data. I think actually it's very efficient in terms of expenses. You don't consume that much data.
True, but I suppose if you can perhaps understand the intent, and this is where the data comes again from, you talk about real-time data, as in what is the customer trying to achieve here?
Exactly.
So we can understand that intent, or at least make a best guess. No, it's not necessarily best guess. Then going into those mini models is important, but if you can't ascertain that intent at the outset, it becomes
100%.
nigh on impossible.
I cannot agree more. And that's why it's a sidebar parallel work. So we have like a specific like SWAT team working on experimenting this to see how does that look like and how that would perform. But today we're on a traditional RAG model that is already providing a pretty good accuracy. If we look at the CSAT and DSAT, we have a pretty good level versus what a human would provide today in terms of, like, I would say the generic AI bots. Now, for me, the biggest challenge, and that's also why we have a lot of different work streams and we're testing a lot of different models, is how do I make sure the day I just push the button to get a virtual agent, because we cannot afford today to have virtual agent in CPaaS where imagine a customer is in urgency to solve a communication channel. Think about 911. Think about like some hotline calling sex trafficking. We cannot afford that this is disrupted with an outage for hours. This is impossible. This is life-threatening. So we need to make sure that the day we open up to a virtual agent, it rather be damn good. And that's exactly why we are developing all these copilots to do human validation. So the human today is still at the core center, is using our copilots, is telling us how accurate it is. And if we don't go in the level of the 98% of accuracy, we will never go to the next level. So what we're working right now is ensuring that the model that serves the copilot is always, so all the predictive traits we're making is always verified by a human, tested by a human to really understand the level of accuracy. We also have other AI agents like measuring the quality of the AI copilot. So we have AI watching other AI and telling us like, is this good in quality insurance? Is the empathy here? Is the communication skills level here? Is the relevance of the next step, relevance of the next step here? Is the documentation used on the vaccine accurate enough? Because that's the hardest part, is you can be connected to the right data source. Most of the time, the problem is in the documentation. It's not relevant anymore. It's not updated. It's not accurate. How do you make sure you create your data all the time and the quality testing of accuracy? How do you make sure your product management team update the documentation accordingly? That's always the name of the game here.
And those challenges, I guess, are often more harder to overcome than, fine-tuning an LLM or putting a RAG pipeline into it. But so you're an economist by background, okay? So, and I'll just use OpenAI. You guys are using OpenAI. Obviously, the API model that any LLM provides is fine to a certain volume of usage, but when you start to scale, does the economics of it start to stack up or not? In terms of, if you're firing lots of data at an API, and if you have, as you mentioned, one or multiple LLMs checking other LLMs, that surely starts to come at a volume, quite an expensive gig.
I agree with you. It's gonna become for us more and more expensive, because today, okay, we're using, so let's make just like a state of the union. Today we have Copilot for support. We have Copilot launching for sales, Copilot for DSRs, Copilot for some operation functions. But tomorrow, let's say we are able, and that's our goal in 2025, to create a virtual agent for sales, a virtual agent for DSR, a virtual agent for operational type of function. The consumption of data is going to be way much bigger. And we need to make sure we are cost effective no matter what. So today, it's still fine because we are not scaled at the level that where we want to be, but we need to prevent for tomorrow. And that's exactly why we are looking, okay, OpenAI is a great model. What are the other models that are performing the same way with the same type of accuracy? Because that fits us. I wouldn't say OpenAI fits everyone, but for our use case, for the way we're using it, it fits us well. So what are the other models like Claude or the model that have a similar type of performance and reasoning? And based on that, how could we create a multi-AI model that always solve for the best cost? Because if you're attached to only one model, let's say tomorrow OpenAI decide like to be 3x its costs. What do you do? Yeah. What do you do? You're all built on this. You need to be flexible. It's like the cloud. It's the same problem with the cloud. Do you want to be a multi-cloud type of get a multi-cloud services? Or do you want to be like just build over on the top of one cloud? So I think it's important that we evaluate all the possibilities and we are trying to test like how could we be multi-AI model. The second, so that's one work stream. The second one is how do we potentially reduce the model we're using with mini model? Can we use mini model based on what is the query? Also, which model do you use based on the query? Is it a model that you need that require multi-step reasoning, therefore you need a O1 model in OpenAI? Or do you need like something that is just probabilistic, therefore a 4.0 works very well? So which model you use within the partner, the provider you're using, but which model actually you use across the entire level of different AI company that service you. So I think that we need to think more smartly there, like how can we switch from one model to another model, regardless of the company, to be able not only to serve the right query, so the right type of model required for this query, and at the same time, having this flexibility to optimize for costs and use less and less data in so many ways. The beauty of it also is all these companies are using less and less data on their side. So they are becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And I honestly feel that in the next 1 year or so, I mean, the consumption and how much it would cost will be at least 10x than where we are today.
Yeah, and I know there's been some reports done around the generative AI, and if it's going to scale to the level that it needs to scale, the training of the models is just going to be so cost prohibitive. And I think you're right. From what I've seen, people I've spoken to, the breaking down. Some of the models are good enough, as you say. Sometimes good enough is good enough. It doesn't have to be, all singing, all dancing, depending on what your use case scenario is. And I think I'm interested to hear your view, that mix as well of what I would call good old traditional AI, the NLP, NLU, that seems to have got forgotten about in the rush to LLM. Do you see are you guys using a mix of NLU, NLP, the traditional world with LLMs, or do you see more and more the traditional world is starting to dissipate or disappear?
That's a very good question. So we use a mix, but I would say like where it's gonna be, that's a very difficult answer and that's exactly why we're trying different configuration to ensure that we're prepared and be dynamic into this. I don't have an answer, to be honest. I would say like it's really important to evaluate all the options and all the configurations. Therefore, we make sure that we have the most optimum. I give you an example. It's an interesting one. When we build our first LLM and fine tuning, honestly, we were like so excited. That was like what, 8 months ago? That was so exciting. We were like, oh, the results are amazing. And actually, we realized maybe like 3 months ago that actually this is not scalable. We cannot make this scalable. We need to revise the way it's architectured. And so we revised our architecture entirely to make it scalable, to make it like a toolkit also, be able to plug that in so many places. That's another thing where I think we make a lot of mistake is make it static. And once it's static and you cannot have agility into your system architecture, you cannot do anything with it. How do you make sure you build that in a way that through APIs that is very dynamic, that you can use as a toolkit and you can plug? I give you an example. A lot of our LLM now, you can plug it in the console. You can use it from R&D, the proper R&D where we build our product. They can use it and leverage it at any places where they want. So we want to make sure we are the most agile possible in a way that it's expandable, it's manipulable, and you can create agility in the architecture, how it's designed. Therefore, you can really derail the way you have built things and potentially adapt. And that's where I think it's the key is we need to be very careful, because a lot of these companies, and I have a lot of dinner with SVP of CX, Chief Customer Officer, R&D on AI and automation, and all of these people like are building for today. And miss the part that tomorrow will not look like the same in a way that it's architecturally designed. And so we don't know what it's going to be tomorrow and how it will be designed. So we need to make the things very flexible and agile. Therefore, we can adapt at any time. And that's what we are doing right now. We are revamping our architecture to ensure we have this flexibility and testing different configuration to ensure, okay, we're ready for different configuration, because I know a lot of people are thinking about AI. We're already in production since a while. We're already like delivering to our customer every single day, AI bot, copilot internally, the best experience possible. And actually the accuracy is pretty high. But what is missing, in my opinion, is going to make the vast difference is this hyper-personalization, where it looks like it's human-like. And the human-like are two components, is getting the right data and using the right way, but also talking the right way. It's very hard today although I must say like the last version of conversational AI is not too bad, but still, it doesn't still look like entirely human, but it will very quickly, I think.
Yeah, I think, I've seen some of the and it's on the multimodal conversation in the demos that I think about 6 months ago, OpenAI released around, you know, consuming content in
Yes,
visual, in
the
audio, in text.
visual.
I think now it has still some way to go, but we're nowhere near that yet. I think traditionally conversational AI is part of where what we deliver is still very much what I would call still pretty much old school, directed dialogue, yes, data driven. So it'll be
Yes.
interesting to see does that multimodal approach take off? How that's going to impact customer experience? And I think as well, there's a lot of I'm going to step back a little bit because Twilio is a tech company, so in some regards, you were always going to dive into AI. It's just the nature of what we do. And there is a lot of other organizations that are not tech companies who are looking at AI, and there's fear of missing out, and there's somebody else describing it as fear of moving forward. Because it's ever, as you've talked about, a flexible architecture constantly evolving and changing now. So how do organizations that are maybe not as deep into the tech as you guys are, how do you start the journey? What are the things that you want to consider? Where do you start? Because it's great talking about multimodal and looking at all of these wonderful demos and going, wow, isn't that such a brilliant experience? If you're still, maybe 20 years behind that in terms of your architect, maybe you're still running on-prem solutions, you're not even in the cloud yet. So how do you start that journey and how do you move forward into that world of AI?
That's a very good question. I think it depends what you want to achieve. If it's in terms of customer experience, ensuring they have the best experience for all customer-facing touch points, I would advise two things. The first one is don't build it yourself. Like if it's just to purpose like kind of a support or customer experience type of post-sales, or even like pre-sales, but in terms of like inbound, outbound, I would really advise to go through a third party. There are amazing third party companies today here who are providing incredible solutions that have all these layers of LLM, fine tuning, a recommendation engine. Now, that said, you rather have investment in your data to make them the cleanest possible, because you can have the best company in AI that you use every day. If you don't have clean data, it's not going to provide any good results. So you cannot accept to be in the AI technology to service your customer with AI if you don't accept to clean your data. A lot of the time, even if you're well connected into different of your systems, a lot of time data contradicts to each other. And so you will have one set of data from one source and a different set of data telling the opposite from another source. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the right data architecture that helps you reconcile this, again, you can have the best companies servicing you. They won't be able to do miracles because they consume your data. So my recommendation would be, one, clean your data, make sure you have curated data, make sure also you have invest the right logic on your data governance, make sure you have the best governance possible. Privacy and security we haven't talked about this, but this is core principles. This should be like a basic foundation that we cannot start anything without it. If you don't have a right privacy and security around the data you're using and consuming through AI, you may shut down your company one day. And so this is like a golden rule that you need to go after, and ensuring that you have the right governance. Once you have this clean data and right governance, I think like using third party, there are amazing third party, is a great solution. They are also working a lot on how to reduce the cost and make it the most effective. And you don't have to update your tech all the time. That's the beauty of it, is using versus building. You don't have to update your tech. They are doing that for you on your behalf. It has a cost, yes. Is it more costly? Maybe. It depends the nature of your company. And if your company is not into deep that, it might be less costly, actually. If your company, on our side, is very different, I'm going to give you an example, is we talk about AI, how to service customer experience, but we also sell product with AI. And that's a huge core business we have today, because We own a CDP, so we have all the data of our consumers, and we can help all the businesses to drive the right behavior with their consumers, to get the best outcome with their consumers, make their consumers the happiest possible, drive the right behavior from them, and ensuring they consume the right way we want it. So we help all our businesses to get the best ROI with AI, but not AI only. That's not enough. It's AI plus contextual data plus CDP. If you don't have the customer profile, if you don't have the contextual data and the AI, you cannot provide the best prediction and services in our product with AI. Now, in our case, because we have a lot of R&D specialized in AI, I really feel that it's more important to build ourselves. Well, we use partner, of course, like OpenAI. It's very important to fine-tune ourselves and build all the recommendation engine, which is the hardest part, in my opinion, ourselves. Because CPaaS is extremely different than any software company, and it would take more time for a third-party company to build our recommendation engine than building it ourselves. So I would say it's different for each company. The last point I would like to add is important is you are talking about multimodal AI. Multimodal AI is a core requirement for physical AI. When I say physical AI, I'm talking about robots. And I may look extreme, but I'm going to say it. I really think that a lot of the robot services will come into our life every single day very soon, not that long time ago. I think tomorrow, like when you wake up in the morning and you want to go grab a coffee, the barista will not be a human. Your barista will be a robot. I really think a lot of services will be served by robots. I think in education, you will see robots in the future helping in schools, helping at home doing homework, bringing you potentially one day your kids to school and be able to help them on a day-to-day for their behavior, for their education, for their homework at school, assist at school, also some teachers. So I honestly think that if you don't have the multimodal AI, meaning that be able to understand the human in front of you, let's say you're a robot, if you don't understand the human in front of you, what's his emotion? What is it going to do? How do you predict his movement? How do you understand what he means? And so the visual, the text, the expression, which is really complex to analyze the expression, robots will be useless in this case and will be dangerous actually because the interpretation will be wrong. So multimodal AI is the core requirement to our future. Will we get there? I think so. I'm very, very positive in that. And I really think that all the acceleration we have seen in the last 6 months show that, yes, we will get there. Look what robots are doing today. It's just the beginning, and it's going to be exponential because of multimodal AI.
I'm not sure about doing the kids' homework, although that would have been quite good a few years ago. But I think it will.
I'm not saying tomorrow, but I'm saying like it's going to come faster than we think. A lot of people are betting on 10 years of getting this level of accuracy. I think it's going to be sooner, but I think the big problem is going to be about insurance. And insurance business for AI is going to be a very interesting business.
Insurance around the quality and the accuracy and
insurance
privacy.
Of physical AI. The insurance of physical AI, how do you make damage potentially by a robot servicing you in-house, outside of the house? Imagine in a traffic jam. How do you manage that? Robotaxi is a very good example. That's the first premise. But when you have a robot holding the hand of your kid and crossing the streets to go to school, where is the liability? It's huge. So how are we going to manage insurance liability and coverage there? It's going to be a very, very interesting industry tomorrow.
I think, well, it's very interesting today. And I know we're up against time, but I think one of the things that resonates with me when you mentioned it is the data. And believe it or not, probably 26 years ago, I know I don't look that old, working on an SVC, if you've ever heard the term, single view of customer. for a
Yes.
global bank, and that bank still exists today. And that was the problem then, is how can we have a single view? What is our data? What is our data strategy? What is the architecture of it? And organizations in those 26 years, in my experience, have failed to still address that challenge correctly. And I think until they do, then AI, it's like there's a not a very nice term that I've used in the past would be like for most organizations, like putting lipstick on a pig. It might look rather pretty at the front end, but does absolutely nothing because there's no substance behind it. So I think there's definitely a challenge.
I mean, the
But
single view, getting like all the data related to one individual or one customer is extremely complex. It looks easy, but it's
it
extremely
is.
complex. And again, a lot of data contradicts. And so that makes the single view extremely hard. And that's exactly why we are trying to build a SLM per customer to solve for this. We are trying to test to see like if you have an SLM for each customers, do you have this single view with this single access to the right data for this individual or customers? Will that drive better results based on that? That's exactly what we're testing.
I'll be interesting to watch and see. And I'll keep an eye as Twilio and that continues to innovate and develop for both customers and employees. Isabelle, we're up against time. Listen, I really appreciate it. I could chat for the next hour, to be honest, but I know you don't have the time, but I really do appreciate it. And I think we'll probably get you on maybe in 6 months' time again to see how those co-pilots are going, to see how that
Yes, would love
individual
to.
that individual model is developing. But I would guess the investment you guys are making and the approach you're taking, there's a fair chance that some
We
of it
should
is definitely
try,
going to
we
work
should
out.
test this. You know what, Oliver? We should have like our next session where it's not me talking to you, it's my virtual me. And my virtual me, like just pitching what this virtual me has accomplished in the organization. That would be
So
interesting.
someone told me this morning in the office before I left that apparently Google have launched an application whereby you can provide a PDF and it will generate two personas and two voices to run a podcast. So I thought,
Yes, 100%. You know what? I'm going to tell you one thing that you may not know. You need only 3 seconds to capture your voice that I can replicate it perfectly. 3 seconds.
yeah,
So be careful because when it's in wrong hands, it can be terrible. But in good hands, actually, a lot of your podcast could be used with AI. 100%.
well, it seems like my days with the podcast are numbered, but
we still
we
we
will do
still need your
that.
thoughts. The human thoughts is extremely important, and today is really hard to replace. Let's be honest.
It is. Isabelle, listen, thank
It
you
was a
very much. I
pleasure.
really appreciate your time. It's been fantastic chatting to you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.